Welcome to Keepers of the Cape, an uplifting exploration of the amazing animals and ecosystems of South Africa's Western Cape. The series showcases the magnificent conservation work of local scientists, environmentalists and conservationists. Join zoologist Tali Hoffman as she uncovers positive conservation stories from the wild and beautiful Western Cape.
We're here on the Kleinbaai Slipway, just outside the small town of Gansbaai. We're about to travel 10 kilometers out to sea. Our first stop is Daya Island, which is home to one of the most vulnerable populations of the African penguin. From there we move to Giza Island, just adjacent to Daya Island, which boasts one of the largest colonies of the Cape fur seal. And finally we make our way to the ominous Shark Alley, which lies just between these two islands, which has the highest density of the great white shark. Join us as we investigate this fascinating ecosystem and learn more about the conservation practices in place here.
Roughly 5 miles off the Gansbaai coast and about 2 hours from Cape Town, you will find Daya Island. The island itself is a mere 20 hectares, but plays host to several coastal birds, such as Cape cormorants, kelp gulls, swift terns, and the African penguin. They are the only penguins to breed on the African continent, and, while currently listed as vulnerable, there remains great concern, with recent decades showing an alarming 90% drop in the Daya population. Tali went in search of answers to the burning question surrounding some of the threats facing Daya's wildlife.
30 years ago, Daya had probably the largest penguin colony of about 25,000 breeding pairs.
Sure.
So that's probably about 50,000 birds.
And that's in quite a small area as well.
Exactly. I mean, Daya is only 20 hectares. Okay. And if you have a look now, we probably only have about 2,500 breeding pairs. And
that's
in 30 years, that's a 90% drop. And so it's very frightening.
A narrow channel separates Daya Island from Giza Rock. Although only 3 hectares in size, Giza Rock is packed with some 60,000 Cape fur seals, creating a fertile feeding ground for the scores of great white sharks which frequent the channel, aptly known as Shark Alley.
Everybody's first impression of what a white shark will be like is this aggressive monster.
Yeah.
After Jaws, there was an incredible fear of the shark. Thousands and thousands of sharks all over the world was been caught, killed. From the earliest days, we thought that sharks is man-eaters, but they're not man-eaters.
Our main aim is to get people out here, show them the real great white shark, and also allow them to appreciate what sort of role the shark has in the ecosystem here and why conservation for the shark is still critical.
Although now protected in several countries, including South Africa, great whites have been listed on the CITES Endangered Species list. A migratory species, they can be found in temperate and sometimes warm coastal waters worldwide, and are famed as being highly adapted predators.
I believe that once people have seen the great white in its natural area, they lose that belief that these sharks is indiscriminate feeders of man. Definitely. If you see today the great white shark swimming past you, it's an incredible animal.
Yeah.
And you're going to definitely change your perspective of the shark.
Later in the program, Tali discovers more about these incredible predators. But first, she joins a team of penguin experts getting to work on Daya Island. Daya Island is one of the most important bird sites in the country, and for its resident seabirds, early morning is certainly a busy time. While some are leaving in search of food, others are making sure that nests are well protected, guarding against predatory kelp gulls who regard eggs and young chicks as an easy meal. Lauren Waller is a PhD student studying the African penguin. We met up with her to find out exactly what is being done to conserve this penguin colony and others like it.
Yeah. Good one to watch. Lauren, why is conservation so important on Dyer Island?
Well, Tally, Dyer Island is a really important island in terms of seabird conservation. There's a number of seabirds that breed here that have really important conservation significance. There's white-breasted cormorants, Cape cormorants, bank cormorants. Dyer actually has the largest breeding population of Cape cormorants within southern Africa. And of course not to forget the African penguin as well,
Sure.
which given its current status is a really important bird for us to monitor and to study now as an organization.
Penguins are well known for their comic, awkward waddle. But while they may seem clumsy on land, they transform into agile and graceful creatures in the water. The African penguin is the only penguin species to breed in Africa. They are definitely creatures of habit, returning to the same breeding site and mating partner every year. Breeding pairs work as a team, taking turns to care for chicks and making foraging trips to sea, rarely venturing too far off.
On Dyer, the situation has changed a little bit. They do breed on the surface, as you can see here, but on Dyer specifically, and on many of the offshore islands in southern Africa, many of them would have made their burrow in guano.
Guano is essentially seabird waste and was harvested on many offshore islands as a fertilizer because of its high mineral content. The removal of guano was finally stopped on Dyer Island in the mid-80s, but by then, the damage had already been done.
And now what's been happening is, as a result of years and years of guano harvesting from the island, you'll see it's just really rocky and completely bare of guano.
Why would guano be harvested?
It had a very high nitrogen content, so it was sold as a fertilizer. And this practice only stopped as recent as 1983, so it really hasn't had time to build up. And because the numbers of birds have just dropped so drastically, there's just not enough birds to replace it.
Historically, it was threats such as guano scraping and egg harvesting that brought on the initial decline in penguin numbers. But more recently, there are new threats. Competition with commercial fisheries has meant that these penguins now have to work much harder and venture farther out to sea. Oiling presents another threat, which can be potentially fatal. Penguins rely on their specialized feathers to keep them insulated. Being coated in oil destroys this insulating ability and often results in a slow death from exposure. Here at Dyer, our penguins are also preyed on by rogue seals from the nearby Giza Rock colony.
Lauren, those chicks over there, how old are they more or less?
Well, that little downy chick, he's about a month or two, and you'll see he's covered in a really soft brown down.
Yeah.
So he's going to stay there until he becomes what we actually call a blue. And basically what happens there is that his down gets completely replaced by the waterproof feathers, but they've got a kind of a blue tinge. And so then he's completely waterproof, and then he'll go off to sea.
Fledging is a major milestone for chicks and marks their first steps towards independence. Once their fluffy down is replaced with blue plumage, the youngsters will get their first taste of the water. Not long after, they will leave the colony and their parents behind, returning well over a year later. Very little is known about this time spent away from the colony.
So what nests, what chicks are we going to be weighing today?
We've got, we're going to be looking at these nests. We have a few in this specific colony that are part of our study nests for the chick weighing.
Right.
And there's 2 or 3 nests here that we're going to be looking at.
Okay.
And we do the chick weighing on a regular basis every 6 days.
Okay.
And
until they are fully fledged?
That's it, yeah.
Okay.
Basically until they leave the nest.
All right. Okay, so how does this process actually work?
Basically, we're just going to have a look at the occupants of the nest, and the way that we monitor the individual bird is we mark them with different color variations.
Okay.
So if you can just make a note that the specific bird is the pink left flipper.
Okay.
Odd name for a chick, but that's what he is. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is I'll take his wing measurement. Basically, we take wing and head length and a weight, so we get an overall condition index of the bird.
Okay.
Okay, so this is 190. And then the head is next.
The heads are still quite small at this age,
Yes,
relative
they
to the rest
are.
of their bodies.
Yeah, but recent studies have shown that the head is actually the head length is a better indication of overall condition of the bird.
Oh, really?
This is 106.7. And then the next thing we do is we'll put him in a bag and we'll weigh him. And I've already taken a measurement or a weight of the bag, so I'm only getting a weight of the chick.
Is there a reason why you're wearing these fancy green outfits?
Well, the chicks aren't too bad. The green outfits, yeah, you tend to get covered in penguin poo at the end of the day, and it's a washing nightmare. 2.76. So both the head and the weight are showing that he's actually the smaller bird. And you'll see these chicks now, they've started to lose that chick down.
Yeah, you can see on his head
that's it.
Fur's coming off.
And so they're starting to get this blue plumage. And once a bird's completely blue, then he'll be ready to, he'll be completely waterproof, and he'll be ready to go to sea on his own. Okay?
And once they've gone on their own, is that it?
That's it. Yeah, they're on their own. No more mum and dad to look after you. There you go.
Because of habitat destruction, artificial nests are placed around the island, contributing significantly to breeding success.
Okay, so the reason we're doing them here is to, the penguins were breeding here last season.
Okay.
And
they're quite light, actually.
they're very light, but they're surprisingly strong. You can stand on them and they don't break.
What are they made out of?
It's a mixture between a resin and fiberglass.
And you just line them up in a row?
Yeah.
It's down there. So is it the case of digging them into the ground?
Yeah. We won't dig them completely in. What we're wanting to do is just keep them a little bit more elevated than the earlier nest that we put in, just to allow for more air movement within the nest and just to keep them a bit better aerated.
Okay.
So what we'll do is, you see these ventilation holes, we'll dig them in to the level of the first hole, and then we'll just cover them with rocks. So the rocks keep it insulated and cool from the sun. But this is a route that the birds often follow. You'll see when there's a little penguin path that leads from this colony through here. So they follow the same sort of routes. Okay. And so we know that the penguins utilize this area, so that's why we've got this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we start digging?
Have you had your jungle aids?
I have.
Okay.
Nests are set up in the same spots as previous nesting sites so that the birds can return there. And covering it with rocks not only secures it, but makes it appear more natural. With these artificial nests, the birds are protected from the elements and predators, giving chicks a much better chance of survival.
Here on Dyer Island, conservation practices such as the building of artificial penguin nests address the immediate survival requirements of the island's inhabitants, while long-term monitoring of bird condition, bird number and diet ensure the survival of species long into the future. But this island does not exist in isolation. It forms part of a much larger ecosystem whose long-term resilience is dependent upon responsible conservation practices.
The thriving Cape fur seal population on Giza Rock has attracted great white sharks in droves, making Shark Alley world-renowned as one of the best places to view great whites.
I'm in Shark Alley. I have Dyer Island to my right and Giza Rock to my left. Shark Alley is renowned for having the highest density of great white sharks found anywhere in the world. Right now I'm going to be speaking to local shark conservationists who will be telling us all about these fascinating animals, and then I'll be getting up close and personal with these powerful apex predators.
Alison Towner is a marine biologist working aboard the Shark Fever, a white shark cage diving vessel. Here she conducts ongoing shark research and promotes great white conservation.
So what does your work actually entail when you're doing research on the sharks?
Okay, well, what I focus on is identifying our sharks that come through here, as well as educating clients. What we do is we take photo identification of the shark's dorsal fins. So while we have a shark around the boat, we take a picture of its dorsal that goes back onto the computer and gets catalogued. Okay. And then we get to recognise the sharks stopping off here annually. Okay. It's really great because they only spend a relatively short time period in the bay, so it's awesome to be able to document them and see them coming back through the area.
Great white sharks are the largest predatory fish in the sea and weigh in at around 2 tons and can reach lengths of about 6 meters. Like most sharks, great whites are slow-growing, mature late, and have a low reproductivity. This makes them less resilient to pressures and more susceptible to declines. So little is known about these ocean giants, and this is why Alison's research work is essential to a better understanding of white sharks and how best to conserve them.
So essentially you're trying to document all the different tails or fins?
Yeah, well, the dorsal fin of the shark is like a fingerprint to the animal. So if we can get a photograph of that and put it onto the computer, then we can recognise it. It's the series of notch marks down the trailing edge of the dorsal that we actually characterise it by. Here we go.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Now, it's probably seen another shark. So you see here with the dorsal fin photo, we zoom into this trailing edge, and you can see the series of notch marks down the back there.
Right.
Just watch the bait.
Go. Another beautiful mugshot.
Beautiful. So you can see these notch marks down the back of the fin, and that's what is essentially the shark's fingerprint, right down the trailing edge there.
With shark cage diving becoming extremely popular with both local and foreign tourists, many people question the practice of chumming for sharks.
Now, this process of what we're doing, throwing bait out and reeling it back in, is this what is considered chumming? Is this...
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of controversy around the whole process and method of chumming, but actually what you see here, there's no blood being thrown into the water. All we're using is natural sardine oil, which, of course, is plentiful here in South Africa.
Sure.
So,
especially at this time of year.
Yeah, exactly. And it's having no effect on the shark whatsoever because of the fact the shark isn't residential. It stays here for 3 to 4 weeks and off it goes again, so it can never be conditioned to our boat.
Aboard the Shark Fever, we are assured that no blood is used in the chumming mix and that sharks are not fed. Since the sharks are not resident, they do not become habituated to the chumming process.
So you never actually let them get hold of the bait?
No, we don't feed the sharks at all, contrary to popular belief. Our main aim is just to attract the shark in, show people what an awesome animal is and also how relaxed and how agile they are. And we don't need to puppy feed them to keep them around. They're a naturally inquisitive fish, so we do our best to try and make sure that bait line's kept away from them. Obviously, sometimes they do get away with the bait. They are pretty effective at ambushing things from below.
Would you say that this type of tourism is eco-friendly?
I'd say this is the most responsible kind of ecotourism in terms of shark diving in the world. The systems are really well regulated here, and obviously there's a lot of controversy surrounding it, but every day I see 20 to 40 people getting off our boat with a new appreciation for this animal, and just knowing that they've had no effects on the animal, they've had a brilliant day out with them. It's, definitely responsible ecotourism.
Responsible shark cage diving has become an effective conservation tool, helping to change people's negative perception of sharks into a newfound respect for these amazing creatures.
Well, there's great excitement on deck. There's about 4 sharks swimming around the boat. And I'm dressed up in this wetsuit because I'm about to get into a cage in the water with the sharks. Feeling a little bit nervous about this, but everyone assures me that it's perfectly safe. And really, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So I'm going to make the most of it. Wish me luck. Hope to see you on the other side.
Seeing the sharks from the boat in no way prepares a diver for seeing them underwater. Their sheer size and presence are almost too much to take in all at once. Great white sharks are protected in South Africa, and successes in their conservation is closely linked to learning more about them and preserving their habitats. With all the hype surrounding these sharks, we still know very little about them, and several research studies are trying to change this. Great whites often breach, a behavior associated with ambushing prey from below. But here in Shark Alley, due to the shallowness of the water, it is less common.
Watch him.
The great white shark's unique adaptations make them efficient hunters. Dark grey and white counter shading provides camouflage from above and below, allowing them to stalk prey undetected. Add to that specialized electrosensory organs, 7 rows of razor-sharp teeth, a large powerful body and a tail built for thrust, and you have the makings of a legendary predator. An encounter with a great white shark is truly an awe-inspiring experience. It is a powerful conservation tool when used correctly within the ecotourism industry, leaving all those who take part with a better understanding and appreciation for these marvelous giants of the sea.
Well, that was absolutely incredible. The animals are powerful and majestic, and they just glide underwater. And contrary to what I thought it would be, it wasn't frightening at all. They didn't even give me a first glance, never mind a second glance. It's absolutely fantastic.
Beautiful. What's your bite?
Protecting a single species has its merits, but here on and around Daya, the focus is on preserving the delicate balance of nature. From reversing the decline in penguin numbers to ensuring the ocean remains healthy for all its creatures, the entire Daya ecosystem must be preserved for future generations through responsible tourism and conservation.